GridBuilder WP is a very popular query, layout and filter plugin for WordPress, and recently they released version 2.0. Now, with that, there's a lot of key changes over what the previous version brought to the table, and in the next couple of videos, I'm going to demonstrate how you can use some of those key new features and some of those changes. Now, this is a sponsored video, but I'm going to give you no opinions at all. I'm simply going to demonstrate how these features work, and you can make a more informed decision for yourself. All applicable links are in the description down below. So we're going to kick this video off by taking a look at the cards function. Now, the cards is the kind of core part of building out the designs that you want to use with GridBuilder WP. And one of the key things that have changed here is it's now a much more WordPress core orientated workflow. So if you're used to working with WordPress core, this is going to feel very, very familiar. But there's also some very powerful features included as part of this plugin. So once the plugin is installed, you'll see we have a new entry, and inside there, we're going to go and take a look at all cards. Now, when you install GridBuilder WP, one of the things you can do is you can install pre-built templates for a lot of different card designs. And I've done that. I've imported a couple of examples, and I'll show you those, and then we'll see how to create a simple one of your own. So first of all, let's go and take a look at one of the pre-built layouts. You can see I've already installed 4 variations here. You can see they fall into 2 different types. They're either Metro, so that sort of very Windows-orientated design with overlays and very square blocky design, or a masonry design, which allows you a little bit more fluidity with the different sizes and so on. Let's open up this lava and click on Edit. And then you'll see we've got this preview. Now, if you've used GridBuilder WP in the past, this will probably look quite familiar, but once you start working, you'll very quickly come across it is a very different workflow in a positive way. You'll notice that if we take a look in the top left-hand corner, we've got your typical kind of Gutenberg set of options. We can jump into the list view and see how this entire card is built out. And we can also come into add our own blocks. Now, these are blocks that are built as part of GridBuilder WP. We also see some very typical native core blocks, things like columns, groups, rows, stacks, and buttons, and so on. So they operate in a very fundamentally the same way. Now, if we take a look, you'll also see we've got these things like paragraph, custom HTML, custom fields, which means we can use this with things like ACF or MetaBox, and we'll take a look at that a little later. You'll see that the cards are broken down to various different component pieces. So if we open up the list view one more time, you'll see we've got the overall card, which is the kind of container or wrapper for the entire card itself. Then we've got the media section at the top where we've got the thumbnail, and we've got these 3 different areas, which if we want to, we can add our own elements into. And then you can come into the content. You can see inside there we've got our body, and things are broken down to things like post terms, post title, and so on. And finally, you've got a footer section. You can, if you want to, disable or enable any of these options. So if we come over to the right-hand side and open up the card, you can see there's our blocks. Our blocks are these kind of holding pieces for each of these. So for example, we may not want the card footer. You can turn it off. You may want to bring in a card header. You can add that in, and then you can drop in what you want to include inside there. Or you can enable all of those options. Up to you. So then you can see you've got things like you've got your thumbnail options for an overlay. If you want to add an overlay color to it, set it to auto height. There's various different simple functions that control how things look and operate. And you also notice that we've got the layout options here. So currently this is a masonry, but you can switch this over to Metro if you want, and you see that changes the options that we have available. We'll switch it back to masonry for this example. You can also control the alignment, so you may want to have a side-by-side card or stacked on top of each other. Again, entirely up to you how you want to work with this. And you'll see we've got the card name, the preview width, the responsive font, and so on. So all the card options are pretty self-explanatory. If you jump into the block options and select any of the blocks, so for example, choose the media block, you'll see now this opens up more options again. And again, this is very much in the same vein as you used to with WordPress core. If you want to add interactions to this particular section, you can open this up and you can choose what interaction you want. So you can redirect this to, for example, a post, or if you're dealing with media, you can open or play media. You also have conditions here, so if you want to set up where and when things will be shown, you can use the conditions module. So if we open this up, you can see we can set the condition. We can choose multiple conditions, so you can get quite granular and complex with this. And then you can simply click to open this up, choose the values you want, reference lots of different post data, so things like your post format and so on, terms. You can see user ID. So you've got lots and lots of options to work with conditional logic, and you can stack multiple different conditions on top of each other using the and, or operators. So you've got lots of functionality there. You can jump over then and you can see we can set up various different options for different pseudo classes. So if you open this up, you can see you've got your normal, your hover, focus, and active. And then you can choose where you want to grab that from the block parent or from the card. Lots of options inside there. Speaking of options, you'll also notice that we have tons of those available for styling, the content, and all those kinds of things. So your layout, you can see we can choose between various different options here, adjust your spacing, break these down to individual quadrants, so your top, bottom, left, and right. Same for padding and margins. Add borders in, outlines. You kind of get the idea. You've got full control over all those options. Finally, you've also got animation options. If you want to add animation in, you can do that here. There's also CSS transforms, transitions. There's a bunch of options to customize this to the nth degree. So if you're using something like native core WordPress and you want sort of full control of the card design, the grid design alongside the facets for your searching and filtering, this has everything you want. However, I'm not going to cover it in this video, but if you want to use this alongside something like Bricks, for example, or Elementor, you can do that and you can simply just use the facet controls. You can use whatever you want from the entire suite of tools that WP Grid Builder actually provides. Okay, so we've seen how these cards are actually built up when you have a pre-built layout. But what if you want to start from scratch? Very easy to do. What we're going to do is go back into all our cards. We'll choose the option to add new. We'll give this a name. We'll call this demo. And now you can see we start off with basically a blank template. You don't have to use these elements. You can delete what you don't want. You can customize this whatever you want to do. Again, you'll notice that we've got the options for your masonry or your metro, depending upon what you want, and just choosing a different option will update the options you have or the design elements you have as part of the actual list view. Let's switch back into masonry. Let's remove the card header, and we now have these various different pieces. Now we start building out exactly what we want in any of these pieces. So, for example, in our body, we can click the plus, and let's say we want to add in the title. So we'll search for that. Here's our post title. Click and add it in, and that's now added that into that particular section. And now we have all the controls for animation, styling, position, all those kinds of things. So all these options are available inside here. We can also jump up, for example, into the body section or the content area, and we can adjust things like padding and margins and so on here. So for example, let's come to the body, come over into our styling options, come into our spacing, and what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of padding. So let's just grab this, and you can see we can adjust this. You're not limited to pixel values though. You can also set this up to work with ems, rems, percentages. All the key things that you should need are inside here. So let's set this to be rem, for example, and we'll set this to be 1 rem, and that now puts our space around for us. If we click plus to add something else in, this time let's go and add in the excerpt, add our post excerpt in, and you see that's now added in for us. If you want to adjust your typography, you can come in here and adjust what you want. So you can see the size and everything is set with default values, but you can override anything you want here. It's entirely up to you. So it's very easy to start building these out just using these simple component pieces. But as I said earlier, we're not limited to just working with the options we have that are part of WordPress core. I've got advanced custom fields added in here, and I've added a couple of custom fields to my standard posts. So we can easily add that in. Let's go up to our plus, and you can see we have the option for custom field. Let's choose that from the list. We come over to the right-hand side. We can now choose what we want inside there. So let's choose the very first option, and you can see this now allows us to choose what custom field we want to reference. Open this up. It says add in one or more characters. So first what I'm going to do is price. And you can see there's our ACF price field. All we need to do is select it, and that drops in the shortcode for that specific data from ACF. We also have some more options here. So we can choose a prefix. So it makes sense to put in price, and we put, in this case, the £sign. If you want to put a suffix in, you can do that as well. You'll also notice we've got field types. We've got 3 different types of fields we can reference. In this example, this is a number. Once we choose that, you'll see that opens up some additional options for formatting. So in this case, we want to say we want this set to 2 decimal places. We don't want a decimal separator, and we don't want a 1000 separator because the values are quite small, but you can set what you want inside there. You can set interactions up and conditions here again if you want to, but we're going to leave those as they are. Let's come over into the styles, and let's come into the typography. You can see 1M is set inside there. Let's just make this a little smaller. Let's set this to be something like 0.8. So it's a bit smaller, and we'll add some spacing. So we'll come into the spacing section. We'll disconnect these. We'll add a little bit of padding at the top. So we'll say 1 rem. So that gives us a bit more space above it. And you can see now we've got our dynamic data listed inside there. So if we want to, we can repeat that exact same process for any of the other fields we have. I'm not going to worry about that right now. So now we've created the basics for our overall card. So we can save this. If you have any animations and things, you can hit the preview and you can see what those animations will look like. But you can see how easy it is to start building cards out very quickly, adding in custom metadata, styling everything, whatever you want to do. It's very simple. If you want to go even further, you can also jump into the CSS section and you can apply custom CSS to your card design, to the various different elements. So if you're comfortable working with CSS, you can style things, you can do pretty much whatever you want here. You'll also notice you've got custom CSS at the bottom where you can add in different CSS declarations for your before and after pseudo classes, your declarations. There's tons of options here, so you can keep this as simple, just using drag and drop, or you can get stuck in and start working with dynamic data, working with custom CSS and all those kinds of good things. So once you've created your card and you're happy with everything, you obviously need some way of outputting that. So we can use the grids function as part of GridBuilder WP. So you can see we've got this demo inside here, which I've already pulled in. So let's open this up. And inside here, you can see we've got a lot of different options for the query, the layout, and so on. Now, I'm not going to get too much into details here. I'll just show you some of the basics and how easy it is to set things up. So first of all, you can choose the content you want. You can choose between posts, terms, and users. You can then choose the number of posts per page, the order, and so on. So all pretty simple and kind of self-explanatory. You can then choose more granular data. So even though we've chosen posts as our content type, if you had custom post types, you could reference those inside here, but we're just going to use the normal WordPress posts. You can set what post status, so you may want to have a listing where you're showing all the sort of draft posts, for example. Choose by particular authors, include posts. There's lots of options here. You can come into your layout and you can customize this between your things like your masonry, your metro, and your justified, set full width and so on. Even choosing the different breakpoints and how they all work. If you want to use a carousel, you can do that here as well. So you can create a carousel as opposed to just a normal standard grid. And then you can come into your cards, and from here you can choose what card design you want to use. So you can create multiple different card designs, and you can use those in whatever grid you want. So you can have one for your carousel, one for a normal grid, one for your products if you're using WooCommerce. You get the idea. So you can see we've got the card design. So if we click to open this up, you can choose what card design you want. Now, I've set this up to work with demo, which is what we've just created, but you don't have to. You can use with any of these. So we can say lava, for example, which is one of the demo ones I loaded in. You could choose that from here, and then you'd use that as part of your design. Again, like I say, it's very straightforward. Let's set this back to be our demo. There we go. If you want to, you can add conditions in as well. So you get, again, full control over this. You can set different conditions for different devices or different use cases and have different card designs for anything that matches certain different conditions. It's very powerful. Then you can come in, you can control things like your sizing, any animation you want, the loading options, any colors you want to work with, all those kinds of good things. Jumping into media, you can see there's more options inside here. And finally, you've got your advanced section where if you want to, you can work with like advanced JavaScript and so on, custom CSS, beyond what I want to cover in this video. Okay, so once you've done that, hit save and click preview. And this will then load in data from your WordPress copy using whatever you set up, in our case, our posts. And you see this shows our posts. It shows the title. It shows the excerpt and also shows the custom field from ACF that we added in, all set up inside our design. Now it looks particularly ugly because I haven't really spent any time making it look good, but you can see how quick and easy it is to be able to build out your cards, add in whatever information you want from core WordPress or using tools like Advanced Custom Fields, Metabox, and so on, and pull that dynamic data in, and then you can control how your grids look and so much more. Now, in the next video, we'll take a look at how we can start working with facets. These are basically how you can filter the information. We'll also take a look at how we can use this alongside tools like BricsBuilder and so on. So, this is the first part of a multi-part series. All the others will be listed down below as they are released. If you want to find out more about working with WP Grid Builder, all the details are down in the description down below. My name is Paul C. This is WP Tuts. Until next time, take care.